James Tavernier could be on his way out after over 500 appearances. Russell Martin, all you need to know about the under-fire Rangers manager. Over at Parkhead, Dermot Desmond called out for Celtic calamity after what Andrew Kavanagh has done at Rangers. And just when you thought the drama had peaked, Nicholas Raskin's been benched, frozen out, and now there's a showdown brewing behind closed doors. But who's really to blame? Stay locked in because it all kicks off right now. The pressure is piling up like snow on the slopes of Ben Nevis, and it's all falling squarely on the shoulders of Russell Martin, the man many now see as a walking mistake in the Ibrox dugout. 3 wins in 11 matches. That's the grim return since Martin took the reins on the 5th of June. And let's be honest, it's no wonder folk are questioning whether this appointment was anything other than a massive misstep. Kevin Thelwell, who publicly backed the gaffer in a recent Rangers TV Q&A, might already be having some sleepless nights because on the pitch, the results have been nothing short of humiliating. Club Brugge battered Rangers in Europe 9-1 on aggregate, your worst ever joint defeat in continental football. Read that again, 9-1. You don't need a tactics board to understand that's a disgrace. The stands have spoken louder than any pundit. The calls for Martin's sacking are deafening, and the faith in his so-called possession-based football has crumbled quicker than a stale Empire biscuit. The man was brought in after short-lived stints at MK Dons, Swansea and Southampton Den, none of which exactly screamed world beater. A decent run in the Championship with the Saints, and fair play to him for dragging them to the Premier League, but 1 win in 16 games after that. He was sent packing before he'd even hung up his first team sheet in the top flight. And now here he is in the hot seat at Ibrox, looking more out of depth than a tourist on Salchy Hall Street during Hogmanay. To make matters worse, Thelwell revealed that under the new ownership, backed by Andrew Kavanagh and 49ers Enterprises, Rangers splashed out a net spend of £20 million in the last window. That's a serious investment, that's backing, and yet we're still sitting here watching lifeless performances, an identity crisis on the park, and a manager looking like he's one press conference away from a meltdown. Martin's appointment was sold to you as a new era. Modern football, fresh ideas, brave on the ball, but what you've been served up is cowardly, clueless, and completely out of sync with everything Rangers is meant to be. Here's the thing, if Martin does go and the inevitable feels closer by the week, who takes the wheel? And how long can this board continue to back a man who's already lost the trust of Ibrox? Was Russell Martin's appointment the worst decision Rangers have made in the last 10 years? Well now, let's get into this one, because if you thought the mess at Ibrox was the whole story, you're in for a treat. Things haven't exactly been rosy in Govan, but over on the other side of the city, Celtic are quietly spiraling into chaos of their own, and this time, it's the cardigan-wearing kingpin himself, Dermot Desmond, who's in the firing line. Let's not sugarcoat it. The last Old Firm clash was an absolute howler, a soulless, goalless draw that had the energy of a damp Tuesday in Paisley. Neither side covered themselves in glory, but while Rangers are navigating wholesale change, new board, new ownership, new manager, new everything, Celtic are imploding under the weight of their own arrogance and complacency. Andrew Kavanagh, Rangers' new top man, stepped into the training ground last week and delivered a rousing speech to the squad. Say what you want about the results, but that's leadership, that's visibility, that's what you need from someone pulling the strings at the top. Now contrast that with Celtic, where Desmond wouldn't show face at Lennoxtown unless you offered him a direct flight from Barbados and a mirror to comb his moustache. Brendan Rodgers may still be a darling to some, in green and grey, but the squad has been gutted. Nicholas Kuhn, Adam Ida out the door, and the replacements, a few freebies, and a Tierney on loan, hoping his legs hold together with duct tape. Even Hugh Keevans, who usually wouldn't say a bad word about Parkhead if it caught fire, is now questioning what Desmond would even say if he did address the players, because Celtic are gambling in the big moments and losing again and again. Now, here's where it gets interesting for you. Despite our own horrendous start and the Russell Martin experiment looking more and more like a glorified coaching internship, Celtic are there for the taking. They are in their weakest state in years. The dressing room's thin, the board's shambolic, and the fans are restless. And yet, if they still manage to limp over the line and win the league while Rangers flounder, that would be nothing short of an unforgivable embarrassment. Let's be clear, Bojan Miovski was a better signing than Kelechi Iheanacho. The transfer window for Rangers had potential, and the groundwork has been laid by new ownership for a reset. The only missing piece is a team that performs like it understands what's at stake. If Celtic are this weak and Rangers still fail to win the league, would that be the most humiliating title loss in our club's history? Right? Settle in, because this one's going to stir up a few emotions. 7 Rangers players, seven, are entering the final year of their contracts, and let's not dance around it. We're staring at the end of an era, and top of the list, none other than the skipper himself, James Tavernier. Now, look, Tavernier's numbers are outrageous. 524 appearances, 133 goals, 142 assists. That's right. This is a fullback we're talking about, not a number 10. He's been a stalwart, a servant, and at times the heartbeat of Rangers through some of the club's darkest and brightest chapters in recent memory. But there's no hiding from the fact that the game's moving on, and with Max Aarons brought in and starting ahead of him at the start of the campaign, there's a sense that the curtain might be slowly dropping on the Tavernier era. A new contract with a reduced role might be the dignified route, or maybe, just maybe, it's time for a clean break, a fresh captain, a fresh tone, a fresh start. Then there's John Souttar, a proper defender, in a team that's often looked defensively allergic. Despite some ropey moments early on, he's arguably been our most consistent centre-back. If he's allowed to walk out the door for nothing, that would be utter negligence. Souttar must be re-signed. It's not even a debate. Now onto Rabbi Matondo, the winger who lit up one Old Firm and then promptly went missing for several months. If he finds a purple patch, fair play, but let's be honest, this one feels like it's already over. Same goes for Kieran Dowell. Left out of the Europa League squad, booed at Ibrox, and barely kicking a ball since coming back from a loan spell. If he's still in the building by next season, it'll be nothing short of baffling. Liam Kelly's situation is more nuanced. As Jack Butland's understudy, he offers some solid cover, and if Rangers don't bring in another keeper, he could still have a use, but again, that depends on next summer's transfer moves. It's on a knife's edge. Bailey Rice is the wild card. At just 18 years old, he's already made 16 appearances, which is no mean feat, but Rangers haven't exactly covered themselves in glory when it comes to nurturing young talent. If he walks out the door because of a lack of game time, it would be a sore one for the future. And lastly, Kieran Wright, a keeper who's been on the books for years and hasn't played a single senior minute. If that doesn't scream end of the road, nothing does. So with all that said, this is a huge moment of transition, a potential 7 departures. Iconic names, wasted potential, and youngsters on the edge of becoming something special or leaving too soon. Would letting James Tavernier leave next summer finally free Rangers from the ghosts of the past? Or would it be the biggest leadership mistake since handing Pedro Caixinha the keys to Ibrox? Now this one's a powder keg, and it's already fizzing away in the corner of Ibrox. Nicholas Raskin, the lad who was hailed as one of the best bits of business Rangers have done in year, is suddenly at risk of becoming the forgotten man under Russell Martin. And the timing, it's absolutely dreadful. Let's start with the facts. Raskin, just 24 years old, was left completely out of the squad for the Old Firm derby. Not benched, left out, For a match of that magnitude, that speaks volumes. This is the same Raskin who made 48 appearances last season, chipped in with 11 assists, and quite frankly, looked like the heartbeat of the midfield. But now there's talk of a showdown between him, Kevin Thelwell, and the manager, a fallout that's left many scratching their heads. You'd think, with the way Rangers have started the season, 3 wins in 11 games and an aggregate hammering in Europe, you'd need your best players on the pitch. Yet Martin's drawn a line in the sand. Michael Gannon's come out swinging, claiming Raskin isn't a Gascoigne or Cantona, that he doesn't have the right to make demands. Fair enough, Raskin isn't lighting up the global stage, and he's not walking into Belgium's World Cup meeting either. But let's not pretend this team is brimming with world-class alternatives. When you're playing hearts and scraping for points, do you really have the luxury of benching one of your few genuinely technical midfielders? Let's not forget Raskin stayed when he could have walked. There were whispers of late bids on deadline day, and yet he's still here, contracted until 2027. That tells you he's at least willing to fight for his place. But it's now up to Martin to swallow his pride, patch things up, and play him. If nothing else, use him to boost his value ahead of a potential January sale. Because here's the madness: if Rangers don't play him and he ends up rotting on the bench, you're not just losing a midfielder, you're slashing his transfer value in half and possibly wrecking his World Cup hopes. And for what? A managerial ego contest? Rangers need to be ruthless but smart. You can't afford to lose points and value, all while undermining a squad that's already walking on eggshells. The board spent £8 million on Youssef Chermiti. Do you really think they'll tolerate one of their best midfielders being frozen out when the pressure's this high? If Russell Martin refuses to play Nicholas Raskin purely out of stubbornness, should he be the one packing his bags in January instead? Comment below what you think about the news. Don't forget to leave a like on the video to help me out. I post videos every day talking about our Rangers, so if you're not subscribed, you're missing out on the latest news. See you soon.